Ready to find your flow? AFSA's got you covered.
That's right. The hands-on training lab in Richardson, Texas is where you trade PowerPoints for pipe wrenches. Real tools, real systems, and real experience you can actually use.
And if you're ready to test your skills, check out the hands-on NFPA 25 workshops, where you'll inspect, test, and maintain live sprinkler systems and fire pumps. No simulations, no fluff, just pressure, flow, and know-how.
It's the perfect way to get under pressure without cracking under it.
So get fired up and register today at firesprinkler.org. Spots fill faster than a charged branch line.
AFSA, where you don't just learn the code, you live it. Welcome to the K Factor podcast, where we turn up the heat on all things fire protection. Brought to you by the American Fire Sprinkler Association, this podcast sparks conversations about the latest technology, trends, and tools shaping the industry. Join the AFSA tech team as we fan the flames of innovation in fire safety.
Welcome to the show. We are here with Jason Czech, the National Fire Sprinkler Training Manager with Cintas, of course, with Eric Andreessen and Nate. Really appreciate you being here and talking with us today.
Thank you for having me on, Josh.
Oh, you're welcome. So just to kind of tee this up, just had a quick question on how you were able to start your journey and get to the point of being National Fire Sprinkler Training Manager.
Well, I would hate to say this, but I've been in fire protection now for 30 years.
Okay.
And I got into the profession because I was going to college and I needed a job. So I got into a large fire alarm company, EST.
Okay.
And I started as a fire alarm inspector.
You started as an alarm guy.
I started as an alarm guy, yes. I later saw the light. So, but I started as an alarm inspector, transitioned to alarm service. Then I switched companies and I got into programming of fire alarm systems and networks. I then transitioned to a project manager, was promoted to service manager, was promoted to branch manager, transitioned to another company, became a general manager there. And in 2013, I started my journey with Cintas when I uprooted my family in Michigan and moved to Florida to join Cintas Fire, where I became the general manager of Tampa and Orlando. And then within 3 years, I was promoted to regional business director of the Southeast. And just over a year ago, I was transitioned into the role of National Fire Sprinkler Training Manager. So for me, it's leveraging my industry experience and, providing content and training and just supporting the division in a different way outside of just financial.
Right.
So that is kind of what my role is today.
And the weather in Florida is just a perk.
Yes, outside of the hurricanes that are always trying to kill you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Rough season for that, too.
Yes, especially in Tampa.
For sure. So how does your role or what does your role entail?
My role it basically is, how do I look ahead? Everything we do in fire protection is reacting to something that's happening. And my job is looking ahead to say, how do we position our employees, who we call partners? How do I position them to be better trained, to better understand their role, their responsibilities, to better take care of the customers? Because if we're not taking care of our customers and keeping them compliant, somebody else will. So how do I look now proactively to create measures to support our frontline partners that are tasked with taking care of our customers with inspections and service and repairs and things like that?
So you mentioned keeping your customers compliant. How do you ensure that your staff's able to do that with such the large regions or your national? Each jurisdiction is slightly different. How are you able to maintain that, or how do you look forward to that?
The biggest challenge that we have, like most fire protection companies, is staffing. Okay. We are labor driven. We don't sell a physical product. We sell certification. Certification is achieved through certified labor. So for us, we are always trying to find, what is that labor, what does that staffing look like, so we can stay ahead and keep our customers compliant. Many smaller locations are leveraging an inspector that is certified who is also then doing repairs at the same time. Well, at some point, if you have more inspections that are due and then you're piling up repairs from deficiencies identified and approved by the customers, you're running out of man hours and bodies to be able to take care of both needs of different customers. So, we are looking at, how are we growing our staffing? So the days of poaching from other companies, enticing them to come to Cintas, we found that had been not so successful, because once you're able to identify those candidates, you're also figuring out that you have to break their bad habits, how they're performing inspections, how they are representing the company. So 2 years ago, prior to me going into this position, our company changed direction and saying we have to build our own bench strength. We have to create our talent. We have to manufacture talent. Doesn't mean we're going to stop looking at those opportunities to bring on certified talent still out in the market. But we have made a concerted effort to grow our apprentice program, both sprinkler and alarm, so we can accommodate the growth that we expect to have, but more importantly, take care of our customers and keep them compliant. That's
one thing that I find interesting working with your group right now. We have some of your partners with. I guess we're in the IT development program doing our hands-on training. First week in that program, what's very unusual to me as I interact with the attendees is that they're not necessarily from our industry.
Correct.
So how do you lure them in, right? Because this is kind of a hidden. A lot of times we fall into the industry, or it's nepotistic. How do you find those people?
We employ many recruiters, and we give them a job description. Also, we are giving them some background on what we're looking for, because you're right, we are starting with a blank canvas when we hire these individuals. So yes, are we looking for mechanically inclined individuals that have previously worked route-based type jobs, customer-facing type jobs? And so when we are recruiting for these candidates, we have recruiters that are scouring all forums, looking at LinkedIn. There is a mechanism for referrals within our organization where we pay for referrals. And yes, our industry is never going to get away from nepotism.
Right.
So that's always another factor, but it's nepotism in a different way, where it could be an office partner that says, hey, my nephew, my son is looking to get into a career opportunity, and I love Cintas so much, so I let them know to apply to the apprentice program. So, I have the benefit of interviewing all of the sprinkler apprentices as, you could say, the last interview, to make sure that they fully understand the expectations of the program, the rigorous nature of the program, the learning, the hands-on aspect, so we can identify the best candidate that we know, to the best of our ability, that it's going to make it through the 2-year program, that's going to be able to pass the NICET 1 and NICET 2 exams, but more importantly, be a long contributing inspector for years to come with our organization, because we build this loyalty, because we are creating an investment over 2 years without any expectation on return from that investment.
Right.
No revenue return for 2 years. So we are fortunate to be in that position to invest in a program like the apprentice program, knowing that the end result is what's most important. And we're creating that bona fide inspector that is very knowledgeable on the code, NFPA 25, but more importantly, is going to show us some loyalty, as they progress in their career.
Right. Make that investment in them, show you're interested. How much time through this training program? Of course, we're very involved with the NFPA 25 driven side of it. Do you concentrate on soft skills and that customer service, which I think, since we're so heavily regulated, people forget about?
Yeah, that's a huge thing, not just for the apprentices, but Cintas as a whole. We focus on what we call the perfect service visit. I would hate to say this, but it's true that Cintas is never going to be the cheapest in any of our markets.
Right.
So how do we show that added value, that added service to our customer base? And that is the level of customer service that we provide our customer, the thoroughness of the inspections we perform, the interaction with educating the customers, reviewing our findings with those customers, educating those customers, answering their questions, letting them know that if we make any mistake, we're going to own up to it.
Right.
And we're going to make it correct. We're not a company that is going to be lacking in thoroughness. In fact, that is something that we preach. And it's really that customer experience is what we are heavily focused on, as much as the thoroughness of the inspections and the repairs that we perform.
And that goes into your long-term plan, right? To maintain your employees, of course, for that long term, but maintain those customers as well.
Correct, because without our customers, doesn't matter what my staffing needs are.
Right.
I need to maintain my customers, and I need to grow our business. It comes from word of mouth. That's one aspect of growing. But again, our sales reps are making commitments to new storefronts, new customers, saying all the things that we're going to do. And it's our obligation from the operational side to live up to those expectations, to, let our customers know that everything they heard, it wasn't too good to be true, that we actually delivered on those promises that our sales reps made to those new customers.
How do you maintain or stay or keep your staff current with NFPA edition changes and all of the changes around the country, really jurisdictionally?
You see, that is one of the hardest things, not just for Cintas, but the industry as a whole.
For sure.
And yes, we have one individual in our organization that all they do is licensing. That's all their role is. Wow. That they are keeping tabs on licensing, one, to ensure that we are properly certified in many markets to perform the inspections and services we're performing. We are also looking at what is the current adopted code for that market, whether they're still on 2017 or 2020.
Right.
So we have somebody, a resource on a national divisional scale, that's all they do is licensing and what is required in those states and jurisdictions.
How do you integrate hands-on learning and that malleable part of training, especially with the newer generations coming in? They're all hands-on learning with the theoretical approach.
That's another challenge because, the workforce is evolving. Our current workforce is aging out, and the new workforce, it's a different way to develop and train them. But you're still trying to find balance because you still want to continue to commit development and training to the existing workforce, but figuring out the Rubik's Cube of how to develop, the newer workforce, right. Not only to develop them, but to attract them to our industry. So it's a balance that you have to find because, like you said, not everybody learns the same way. Right. We do trainings on demand. We leverage other third-party organizations outside of AFSA, so we can provide that constant ability to expand the knowledge and expand the learning for our partners to make them the best version that they can be. So training and development is a huge emphasis for us, not just in the apprentice program, but also for those technicians that have been with us for 3, 4, 5 years.
Sure. That
we can't turn a blind eye and say, oh, we got to stop developing them.
Right.
We have to find ways to keep them intrigued, keep them motivated, pushing them a little more because sometimes we want to avoid complacency. So we have to find those ways to kind of push our partners and provide even more in-depth training for them to kind of extend their career and hone their skills even more.
Is there a specific situation or story that sticks out that's had a significant impact in terms of the training on their career or yours?
I would say that, when it comes to training back in the day, and I hate saying the back in the day comment, but training was not something that we talked about. Just like safety was never, front of mind.
Right.
We all, as we've progressed in the industry, we've learned from the person we worked with, and we just assumed that individual was the letter of the law. They were the code book until we read the code book and found out, wow, there was a disconnect in what I was being taught and what is actually required. So, I find that, as our industry is aging out, we make many assumptions that they were doing it the best and only way. This apprentice program has taught me and others that as we are adhering to the book, understanding the code book, enforcing that via our inspections, that we're learning that we weren't the best version of ourselves in how we did things because it wasn't always based on what the code specified. As code changes every 3 years, we looked at it as an opportunity to refresh our frontline partners with what those code requirements are, to send them to training, to give them the updates on what the changes were from one code revision to the next. So it's an ongoing battle of having them take care of their day-to-day job, but infusing them with the knowledge so they can do that day-to-day job even better, and to the code that we're, working on and, continuing to look for opportunities to train them to get them better.
You also have some kind of methodology for how you're picking those people that are doing their field training. Obviously, our new partners that are coming in are going through the apprenticeship program, but they're also out in the field with those field trainers, kind of doing that same older school style training of learn from a mentor who's been doing it for a while. Do you guys have any kind of criteria for how you're picking those individuals that you feel are going to be the best to kind of pass that knowledge along? What does that look like for maybe somebody that's experienced in the industry and isn't new?
Yeah, for us, to support the apprentice program, we identify individuals that we call certified route trainers. Those are the individuals that not only have been in the industry or with us for a long period of time, but also have certifications, whether it be NICET or state certifications. To us, that's the baseline for us to say you are an individual that we want working with our apprentices to show them the on-the-job training aspect. As the apprentices are graduating the program and getting their feet under them and performing inspections on their own in year 3, they are essentially going to become the future CRTs to allow us to add more apprentices into the program. But yes, we've done a robust job in identifying those existing technicians, albeit sprinkler or alarm, to identify them to be the certified route trainers for our apprentices that we continue to add every single year.
And is that something that we see as we continue with the training? We're starting to get more people volunteering to do that, saying, hey, I really enjoyed that, I want to get involved? Or what does that involvement look like?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because these apprentices that are spouting off code, reciting code, bringing things up to CRTs, it's making the CRTs up their game. Right. Because they are trying to explain things the way they've been taught until the apprentice says, hey, I just read this in NFPA 25. It says we're supposed to do X, Y, and Z. Hey, why are we not doing it this way? And then the CRT will pause and say, So that CRT is now looking at reviewing the NFPA 25. Some of them, if they're in an environment where they have, let's say, a state license but didn't have NICET, they are actually looking to say, as you're getting NICET, I want to get NICET. I want to push myself to achieve certain certifications because I'm seeing how it's helping you as you're progressing in the industry. They want to do the same thing.
It's fun.
So we're starting to see that they're wanting more training as well, and 100%. They're actually asking for that. And I think that's going to drive the organization probably as a whole, and hopefully our industry as a whole, to keeping up with those changes, right?
Which is why we're looking for training opportunities beyond just the apprentice program. We have to continue investing in our technicians that have been with us for 3, 4, 5 years, or have been in the industry for 3, 4, 5 years, with or without NICET. We have to continue investing in their development.
And I just share a story with the current group that we have here. We were going over dry pipe systems, start talking about resetting the accelerator. There was one very passionate young individual who understood that he knew exactly what was going on and is willing to teach everyone else. Kind of, I wouldn't say push me aside, because it was a lot more respectful than that, right? But I would much rather me sit back, kind of listen to it, and you be excited to teach your peers, which I think is happening more and more frequently as we do the trainings with your group. Is your preference to send the same inspector to the same building, or maybe get a different set of eyes on it?
I mean, if it were me, if I was still a GM in our organization, I would always look to mix it up, because there's a lot of things that you might miss. It's more challenging when it comes to a larger facility, like a large university, like a large hospital, where the customer likes the convenience of somebody that's been to their facility before. So you got to find the balance of what the customer is looking for, what their expectation is on that experience, but also kind of maximizing, the inspections that are being performed, and to ensure that it is the most thorough version of it. So it is finding that balance, but also it's predicated on where individuals live and the territories to which they perform work. So there's other outside variables that come into play as we're scheduling those inspections. So it's not a one answer fits all mentality. But yes, if I had my say, I would love to mix it up every annual inspection, without a doubt.
What advice, because the follow-up to that question is always, well, when we get new sets of eyes, you're always going to get the customer that says, well, last time you were here, I haven't changed a thing, right? And you wrote it up this time. What's changed?
For me, and that's happened in my own experience, but for me, we can't unsee a deficiency. Right. Regardless if we missed it before, we cannot unsee it. And we are obligated to, as I've said to many technicians, to report the news. We did not create the news of a painted sprinkler head or a deficiency on the system, but we are obligated to report the news. And we are expected to review those findings with the customer, even if it's the extent of, why did you miss it before? You've been doing this inspection for 3 years. I look at this as I'd rather lose a customer because I did the right thing.
Right.
I can't always make up for what happened years ago or the year before, but I can be sure to make sure that the customer is aware of these deficiencies that are legitimate per NFPA 25. I'm going to bring them to their attention, and I'm going to provide them a turnkey solution to rectify. It is up to them what they want to do with that information, but I am not going to ignore the fact, no matter the circumstance.
There's good customers, just like good companies and bad companies, good customers and bad customers, right? So in that case, how do you teach someone to handle that? Is there a lot of education going to the facilities managers as well with the report writing, or?
Yeah, we always expect our inspectors, sprinklers specifically, to review their findings with their contact. And that could be the facilities manager, it could be a business owner, whomever it is. We never want to just drop off the inspection report for no one to see. Our obligation as part of that perfect service visit is to make sure that we're reviewing our findings with the customer, answering any questions that they have, let them know of the status of the system when we leave the building. So there's no question. So when they do receive a deficiency proposal, that they're not going to be surprised of that they received it. They're not going to be surprised that, hey, we found 10 painted sprinkler heads. That individual's not going to be surprised because they're expecting that proposal at that point.
Right.
Again, it's up to them then to approve it or find somebody else to do it. And we hope, again, they're going to approve it with us. But I think if we are taking all of the necessary steps to inform the customer and educate the customer, that it would be the assumption that they would also approve the proposal to get their system back to a green tag status.
What advice would you give those building owners in regards to their experience with inspection or ITM technicians? I guess the question comes up because we're a regulated field, which costs money.
Yep.
And we tend to be ignored because we're not necessarily making them money on a day-to-day basis. What advice do you have for the building owners or facilities managers?
The building owners, they always have to think that the point of these inspections is to ensure that these systems in a fire event are going to function for the safety of the occupants and the well-being of the facility. And that, what we do, there's purpose to it. The frequency to which we do it, there's purpose behind it. The functional testing of these systems, there's a purpose because you want it to potentially malfunction in a test scenario rather than a fire event. So it's just reminding the building owners that at the end of the day, this is for life safety purposes to ensure these systems and these components are going to function in the event of a fire emergency.
That we hope never happens.
Happens.
Do you do a lot of cross-training for alarm technicians and sprinkler technicians together as they're very intermingled?
We do. With sprinkler technicians, that obviously they are interacting with the fire alarm panel every inspection that they're doing. We would like to assume that the building owner is going to take the system down and put it in the test. But at the end of the day, we have to be more resourceful, and we're usually doing that for the customer. So there's already on a sprinkler end a interaction with fire alarm systems. And the longer you've been doing this, the more exposure you're going to have with that. On the flip side, with alarm, those are the individuals that are deathly afraid of anything related to water. Water flow inspections and, tamper switch inspections are not done functionally, but through various other means. And for us, we are looking at that cross training of individuals, not that they're going to be a subject expert in both disciplines. We expect that you are going to be well versed on one discipline, but can hold your own on the other discipline.
Right.
So if you're a primary sprinkler inspector, that we expect that you're going to understand alarm pretty good, and if able to and certified in those markets, that you're going to be able to perform possibly a small sprinkler annual inspection and a small fire alarm annual inspection at the same visit.
One-stop shop.
Yeah, in a perfect world, but again, that's not always the case.
Right.
But that's something we hope for when the situation presents itself.
So you mentioned earlier that we were trying to get away from poaching talent from elsewhere and trying to develop our talent, since we do seem to have a labor shortage. We don't have enough qualified individuals just in the industry in general. And I think there's a lot of other companies looking to potentially also start making that shift, realizing that same kind of pitfall maybe. And obviously that comes with some cultural changes. Y'all obviously had to go through that. What did that look like? What advice would you have for maybe other people that are looking to maybe start trying to do a similar approach?
Well, when we started having those conversations a couple of years back, it was kind of outside the norm. It went against the flow. The industry doesn't. Yeah, thank you. The industry doesn't think that way. The industry doesn't work that way. But we had to take a long look at how our staffing was, but more importantly, where is it going? What is the growth of our locations going to be, and how much staff do we need to ensure that we can handle that growth? And, there's so many variables when you are trying to, again, solicit talent from other organizations where sometimes it felt like you were beating your head against a wall and you never knew what you were going to get. And we said, what is a way to streamline this, to have more consistency, to have more control in the process? And the pain was going to be that return on investment. We knew that. But that was a collective, you could say, decision that our division made to say, this is for the betterment of the future for us to help grow. And we had to rip the Band-Aid off and we repositioned our focus. And this is when we started the relationship with AFSA.
Is the resistance that you met that baseline of a more instantaneous return on investment?
100%. That's what it was.
That was the biggest one.
It was 100% that if we can secure talent from elsewhere, that they would be able to be plug and play immediately. But again, you also have to take into consideration the negatives that come with that, which is the bad habits, performance, attitude, maybe misalignment, that they don't agree with our culture, they don't represent our culture, that they're not going to do the perfect service visit. They're going to do what they've always done in their career, whether we told them differently or not. And not that we are looking for conformists, but we are looking for uniformity. We're looking for consistency. That if I were to send one technician out one year for an inspection and another one the next year, there's going to be the same look and feel with the quality of service, the representation of our company, the communication. I'm not going to get that if I essentially purchased a vigilante that goes rogue and does their own thing. So for us, it was, how do I change that? And for us, it was really establishing these apprentice programs.
Do you think that also with creating this culture for those apprentices that are not only shown growth, but maybe it's lowered that turnover rate that you see in most construction fields right now?
100%. The turnover rate, because of that investment, creates loyalty. You still have to take care of your employees. You have to make sure they're well supported beyond just the technical training, that you got to be the one making sure they're put in a position to be successful. They have the right tools to do the job. They have the right support to do their job. You need to still do all of those things, but when you invest like we did with the apprentices and do all these other things and provide them good benefits, good pay, stable work environment, all of those things, that we have greatly seen the turnover in that group in single digits.
Wow.
Awesome. That's amazing.
What do you think some of the biggest challenges you have coming up? Next 5-10 years, what do you think you're going to face biggest problems in your role or as a company or as an industry?
For us, it is simply we have more work than we have bodies to do it. And that's not unique to Cintas Fire. It is typical out there, whereas we have a tremendous amount of work in hand and tremendous growth opportunity in finding those right individuals that are going to be ready, not just from a technician perspective, but as we grow, adding service managers, adding operations managers, adding general managers, adding, new storefronts, new locations that we currently don't have across our division. So with growth comes opportunity, and Cintas Fire is in pure growth mode.
Is there a program, because we've talked about ways to kind of help us grow. We obviously mentioned there's a labor shortage, things like that. One of the things that, when I was in the field, there was some kind of hesitancy towards was training those facility managers to help get some of those low-hanging fruits that, that's a nice, easy service money for us, but it also ties up our inspectors. Are we seeing more time that our technicians are spending training those service managers? Are we seeing an increase in requests for that? Is that something we're kind of pushing, or kind of what's our approach on that? What's your feel on that?
So with training the facility,
yeah, for some of the low-hanging fruit, like how to do a churn test or what to look for on gauges. Some of that weekly low-hanging fruit it's a nice, easy
that we'd
win
love to
for
get
us contractually. It's very easy for us. We love that work, but at the same time, we're spending a lot of time training and developing these individuals, and there's other work that probably needs those skill sets that we might not have time to get to. Kind of how are we balancing that, trying to win the business, keep the money rolling in, but also freeing up our inspectors to go do those higher value tasks that we can maybe train facility managers on? And are we seeing an uptick in requests for facility managers wanting training on some of that low hanging fruit kind of stuff?
I will say, we haven't gone that granular with that level.
Okay.
We are merely focusing on frequency. For those states or municipalities, let's say, is only doing an annual sprinkler inspection, making them aware of the requirement to perform quarterly, regardless if the fire marshal enforces it, regardless if the insurance company let them know that it is a requirement. So we are focusing on if a customer says, we only want an annual sprinkler inspection, comparing apples to apples. We are at that time also educating them to say, yes, understand this is what you want, but this is what you need. This is what is required. So we are focusing more on talking about frequencies to the point of monthlies,
right?
Not so granular to the the weekly or the how you do a churn test, but it's really educating our customer base or potential customers on frequency requirements, so they are more educated to make a decision for their facility, for the insurance that they are within the constraints of the insurance contract that they signed, and so on and so on.
Have you run into any of the, or considered any of the technology changes in how they would influence an ITM technician's role, such as your remote inspecting, your remote ITM, or I'm going to drop the word that seems to come up every podcast and every topic, AI, or anything like that? Have you thought about that or an approach? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
I look at it as one of the best tools out there that's underutilized is NFPA Link.
Okay.
And most fire organizations out there, they do a lot of work on tablets. They do inspections through software on a tablet. Wouldn't it be great if technicians in the field had access to NFPA Link so that when they are writing up an inspection, when they're trying to get clarification on a deficiency, or if they wanted to show the code reference to the customer, that they can pull it up on their tablet, show them the direct link. They can email them directly from Link, that code reference to the customer. So if they have to get approval on deficiency repairs, that they're sending it to whoever in their organization has to approve it. Leveraging that type of technology, which will provide more confidence to the inspector, that if they don't know something, they can pause and say, let me look it up on my tablet to make sure that I'm doing this correctly, that I'm making the right reference, that I can then show the customer, this is why I wrote this deficiency up. This is why you're going to be getting a quote for this. I don't think we do enough of that, and that tool, NFPA Link, is at our disposal, but I don't think we are leveraging it to the point we should in the field, and that goes with inspectors, and I truly believe it goes with sales reps.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that's another opportunity.
That was always when we do our design classes, that's my kind of end mic drop is if you put your salesperson with NFPA 25 and the facilities manager and say, these to your frequency points are what you're responsible for, halfway through or quarter way through that conversation, their jaw is going to drop and say, do you know anybody?
Correct.
So NFPA Link, have you thought about how AI might affect?
Yes.
We are
working through that.
Yeah, fair enough.
I will say with a large organization like Cintas, there's a lot of planning, a lot of consideration that we don't make decisions on a dime. There's a lot of process controls, a lot of vetting out, the pros and cons. So we do that with everything that we do prior to just jumping in with both feet.
Right.
So for us, it may go a little slower, but once we're committed, we're all in.
Fair enough.
And we're not going to change directions even if we run into some hiccups. So for us, it's more of a vetting process that we do before we fully commit.
What advice would you give someone considering a career as a partner or as a ITM technician or really in fire protection?
To be open-minded that this is not a job, that this is more of a career. And I look back when I started in our profession 30 years ago, I didn't know anything about fire protection. Again, I just needed a job. But as we know that once fire protection grabs a hold of you, no matter the discipline you work in, it never lets go. There is sincere satisfaction every single day of new knowledge that we obtain, or our ability to take care of customers, to safeguard their people and their property. There's a rewarding feeling with that. Whereas if I were a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, yes, I'm very cognizant of the job that I'm doing, but the life safety component, what we do in our profession, is the X factor to all of those other, I would say, blue-collar trades. And again, once you're in it, there's nothing else I would rather ever be doing life safety.
Easy to get passionate.
Correct. And become a sponge in it. Yeah. Don't just stop because think you've hit a ceiling on, let's say, sprinkler. Look at special hazard, look at alarm, look at, extinguishers, kitchen. Like, there is so much knowledge to be had. Code is evolving, manufacturers are evolving, and we can't be stagnant. We got to continue being that sponge and being ambassadors to our industry so that one day we can pass the baton to the next generation that is going to take our place. But we're not going to do it if we don't make it exciting, if we don't get passionate about it. And that's kind of what my role is as well, just to create some excitement to entice individuals to consider this trade, because once they get in, they'll fall in love with it just like I did.
That's the crazy part, at least for me, that I realized is the more I dig into this, the more I realize that the more I learn, I realize I know very little about this industry, and I still have a lot to learn, even though we've been doing it for a while, and now we're, subject matter experts on a couple things. But I realized that, there's a lot of growth still left.
300 more codes to look at.
Yeah, as soon as you get comfortable with one, it's like, all right, start digging into the next one. And you realize that, it's a small industry. It's, everybody kind of knows everybody through somebody.
And you're correct. You got to expand your network as you expand your knowledge. Because if you don't have the answer, you at least know where to go to get the answer.
Right.
But we've got a lot of work, and this come up in this conversation already, and not enough people. How do you keep people motivated, or your partners motivated in such? It's a demanding field.
Yep. For us, if you take the industry out of it, what type of environment do you want to work in? Is it supportive? Is there opportunity for growth, for advancement? That when you do a fantastic job, is it going to be rewarded? Are you going to get an annual review? Are you getting an opportunity to earn more money to provide for your family? All of those things go into the equation of how to be a good employer. You're hoping that the industry will entice individuals, but how the employer supports them, takes care of them, provides stable employment is the other portion of that equation to keep a happy employee working for you.
Give me a second there. I'm reading like 3 different kind of final questions. So if you had a magic wand, this is kind of the wrap up. You had a magic wand and you could look at Hollywood and remove any sprinkler myth that you saw out there. Is there one that sticks out? Like when you see it on a show, you're like, oh.
Yeah, from Die Hard.
Okay, that's a good one.
Where all the sprinkler heads, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. It wasn't a deluge system. It was in an office building, and all the heads went off. So I will say Die Hard. It bothers me all the time. And the joy as I get older in my career is how you incorporated fire protection in your home life, where my children who are now 20 and 18 are pointing out things when I'm with them about fire protection, about, hey, what about that backflow? Who's doing the inspection on this? Why is that fire panel in trouble? Like just kind of the influence that I've made over the years, not realizing it.
Right.
It's become comical because, yes, when we watch a movie like Die Hard, I'm like, that is so false. And they get up in arms like, you can't just watch a movie.
No.
So you're right. Okay. So it's kind of like when you go to a store and I point things out, or now they point them out to me, that it's like fire protection is always 24/7 in our personal and private lives, personal and work lives.
So are there any final thoughts or advice you'd like to share with our listeners?
I will say that in order for our industry to grow as a whole, we have to be cognizant for the need of continuous training and development. we have to look that our greatest resource that we have at our disposal are our technicians. And outside of the technicians, it's the office staff that are making those contacts with those customers, that are setting up these inspections, that are setting up the repair. We have to continue looking at how do we support, develop, keep happy our employees to help us take care of our customers. Because again, if I provide the tools to our technicians so they can take care of the customer then will take care of our financial obligations that we committed to grow our businesses.
Right.
It's a simple formula. Take care of your people so they can take care of the customer, and the customer will take care of your financial. That's the secret sauce.
Right.
Take care of your people. And part of taking care of your people is training and developing them.
That's a great point. No, I really appreciate your time. Any final thoughts? No? Really appreciate your time and everything that you're doing here, and look forward to working with you further.
I appreciate your time as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This has been the K Factor Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share wherever you tune in to podcasts. Or head over to our website for more. Reach out to us anytime at technical@firesprinkler.org. Stay safe and always learn as we keep the fire protection conversation going.